Well, there were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
For years, people have wondered what really happened to Princess Diana. Some believed it was just a tragic accident, but others thought there was a secret behind it. Now, something unbelievable has happened. King Charles has been sentenced for Diana's death. How did it come to this? What will happen to the royal family now? The truth has finally come out, and nothing will ever be the same again. How Charles became a suspect. For years, people have whispered, argued, and even shouted about Charles's role in Diana's tragic story. Was he really just a man caught between love and duty? Or was there something more? Let's go back to where it all started. Charles and Camilla go way back, before Diana was even in the picture. They met in the early 1970s and fell in love, but for one reason or another, Charles didn't marry her. Instead, he ended up with Diana, a young, beautiful, and innocent woman who seemed perfect for the role of a princess. But there was a problem. Charles never really got over Camilla. Even after marrying Diana, Charles kept Camilla close, too close. Diana wasn't stupid. She saw what was happening. Imagine being married to a man who secretly loves someone else. That's what Diana had to live with, and she didn't just stay silent about it. In 1995, she sat down for one of the most famous interviews in history. Looking straight at the camera, she said the words that would be remembered forever. There were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. Boom. Just like that, the world knew the truth. Diana was suffering, and Charles was the reason. People turned against Charles instantly. Even after Diana's tragic death in 1997, Charles was still seen as the villain. When he finally married Camilla in 2005, many people refused to accept her. Some still blame him for Diana's pain. And now, with new evidence coming to light, some believe he played a role in Diana's death itself. But how did he go from being a disliked man to a murder suspect? Let's talk about it. New evidence that sparked investigation. For years, the case of Diana's death was considered closed. The official story was that she died in a tragic car crash in Paris, caused by a drunk driver trying to escape the paparazzi. But was that really all there was to it? Recently, something changed. New documents were leaked. Documents that, according to insiders, were never meant to be seen by the public. These papers hinted at a bigger plot behind Diana's death, something much darker than an accident. But that's not all. Some former royal staff members who had stayed quiet for decades finally spoke up. One witness, whose name hasn't been revealed yet for security reasons, claimed that Diana feared for her life before she died. She allegedly told her closest friends that she believed someone was planning to get rid of her. And guess what? She even wrote a letter predicting that she would die in a car crash. That's chilling, isn't it? But here's where Charles comes in. According to these leaked documents and witness accounts, there were people within the royal circle who saw Diana as a problem. She was too popular, too powerful, and most importantly, she wasn't afraid to speak the truth. This made her dangerous, especially to those who wanted Charles and Camilla to eventually be together without any obstacles. Now think about it. If you were Charles and you knew your path to being with Camilla was being blocked by a woman the whole world adored, how would you feel? Some believe Charles didn't just wait for fate to remove Diana. He helped make it happen. But is that really true? Why the case was reopened? For years, people who questioned Diana's death were dismissed as conspiracy theorists. But when so many people believe something, can they all be wrong? The pressure to reopen the case had been growing for a long time. With the new evidence coming to light, authorities had no choice but to take another look. The big question was, if Diana's death wasn't an accident, then who was behind it? And if there was a plan to eliminate her, how deep did it go? Investigators started pulling old records, re-examining statements, and questioning people who had stayed silent for years. One thing became clear. There were too many loose ends in Diana's death, too many strange coincidences. And the more they dug, the more Charles's name started popping up. At first, many thought this was crazy. Why would Charles, of all people, be involved? But then, when the leaked documents suggested that Diana had warned about a plot against her, people started listening. Diana had mentioned a man close to her who might have had a reason to see her gone. Could she have been talking about Charles? The legal pressure leading to Charles's involvement. As investigators gathered more evidence, the royal family stayed silent. They didn't want to comment on rumors. But behind palace walls, something was happening. Lawyers were being called. Meetings were being held. There was a real fear that this case could turn into the biggest royal scandal in history. And when the police officially announced they were looking into Charles as a person of interest, the world went crazy. Imagine that. A king being investigated for the murder of a princess. It sounds like something out of a movie, but it was really happening. Charles, the man who had spent decades trying to win over the British public, was now at the center of a criminal case. Some sources claimed that when he first heard about the investigation, he laughed it off. He thought it was ridiculous. But as days went by and more evidence came out, he stopped laughing. He reportedly became paranoid, avoiding public events and staying behind palace doors as much as possible. And then came the breaking point. One of the former royal staff members who had been close to Diana was brought in for questioning. What they said has not been fully revealed yet, but insiders claim it was something huge, something that directly linked Charles to the case. Whatever it was enough to push investigators to take the next step: charges and key accusations. The prosecution wasted no time. They made it clear from the very beginning. They believed Charles was involved in Diana's death. But how? What proof did they have? First, they talked about motive. Why would Charles want Diana gone? Well, everyone knows about the love triangle. Diana herself had said it. There were 3 of us in this marriage. Charles was always there in the background, waiting. But was he just waiting, or did he take matters into his own hands? Then came the real bombshell. The prosecution claimed they had evidence linking Charles to people who might have had a hand in Diana's accident. They brought up secret phone calls, hidden meetings, and even documents that suggested Charles knew more than he ever admitted. But here's the real kicker. The prosecution hinted that Charles may have been working with powerful people, people with influence, money, and the ability to make things disappear. Could this mean the royal family itself was involved? Was there a hidden network protecting him all these years? The courtroom was silent. People were hanging on to every word. Was Charles just a man in love, or was he part of something much darker? After being sentenced for the shocking murder of Princess Diana, King Charles's outburst was nothing short of explosive. His emotional breakdown has ignited a media frenzy, with royal experts, conspiracy theorists, and the public all questioning the truth behind this stunning verdict. How did we get to this moment? Was justice truly served, or is there more to this story than meets the eye? As the royal family faces its darkest hour, the world watches in disbelief, waiting for what comes next. The monarchy may never be the same again, but one thing is clear: the questions surrounding Diana's death are far from over. Will Charles be able to recover from this devastating blow? Or is this the end of the royal reign as we know it? Only time will tell. King Charles's emotional breakdown after the shocking verdict has left the world in utter disbelief. As the royal family faces an unprecedented crisis, many are asking, what's next for the monarchy? With so many unanswered questions, this story is far from over. Don't miss out on any of the latest updates. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more explosive developments. The truth is just beginning to unravel.